We live our days in relentless busyness. In the breathless race, we chase after something. But often we neglect the most important questions. Am I living rightly now? Is my life truly my own choice? When we suddenly stop before these questions, we finally begin to reflect upon ourselves. Thousands of years ago, in the bustling streets of ancient Athens, there was one man who cared for neither wealth nor honor, focusing solely on cultivating thought. He was Socrates. He declared of himself, "I know nothing," and issued to all the stern command, "Know yourself." His life was, itself, an unending question. He was like a scourge awakening the soul of Athens. Today, at this moment, by following Socrates' journey, the one who questioned the prevailing norms of his time, and sought the true value of life, let us deeply reflect on our own lives, and share a precious time to gain new insight into the path we will walk ahead. His story is not merely a record of a figure in history, but remains a compass for living today. Now, lend your ear to his story. In the 5th century BCE, during the golden age of democracy in Athens, Socrates was born as the son of a stonemason. Like any other citizen, he participated in wars and led a family life. However, the decisive event that changed his life was the Oracle of Delphi. When his friend Chaerephon asked the temple, "Is there anyone wiser than Socrates?" the temple replied, "There is no one." This oracle struck Socrates as a deep paradox. For someone who believed himself to know nothing, the god's declaration brought great confusion. To understand the meaning of the oracle, he began seeking out the renowned wise men of Athens to engage in dialogue. He met with politicians, poets, and craftsmen, questioning them about their wisdom and probing their claims. But the deeper the conversations went, the more astonishing a truth he discovered. He testified, "I found that although they were firmly convinced that they knew something, in fact, they lacked deep reflection on their knowledge. They pretended to know but truly did not." Most people mistakenly believe they knew something, but their knowledge was superficial or riddled with contradictions. In contrast, Socrates clearly recognized his own limitations, his ignorance. He came to realize that this awareness of one's ignorance was precisely the true wisdom that the oracle had spoken of. True wisdom begins not in pretending to know, but in acknowledging one's ignorance. From that moment, his life transformed into a necessary journey to awaken souls and seek universal truths. By his 50s, Socrates had made the bustling squares and marketplaces of Athens his sole academic space. Without special classrooms or tuition fees, He would freely pose questions to anyone he encountered while walking through the streets. His inquiries began with concepts from everyday life. What is a just action, and why is it just? What is goodness, and how can we become good? What is courage, and who is truly courageous? At first, people would offer common sense or socially accepted answers. But Socrates' persistent and sharp questioning led them to realize how vague and contradictory their thoughts were, leaving them embarrassed or even angry. They came to recognize how superficial what they believed to know truly was. During this time, Socrates perfected his unique method of dialogue to draw out the latent truth within others, his original midwifery technique. Just as a midwife helps deliver babies, Socrates helped others to recognize truth for themselves and discover inner wisdom through questioning. He sought the shadows of universal, unchanging truths, the ideas within everyday concepts. Rather than instilling specific knowledge, he focused on cultivating the ability to think and inquire independently. He said, "I wanted to urge people to care for their souls. But most were obsessed only with bodily pleasures, material possessions, and vain honors. Their souls were being neglected and falling ill." His unique and revolutionary method of education sparked an explosive reaction among the young intellectuals of Athens, and countless students followed him. At the same time, however, he began to be seen as a major threat to the traditional values and elite classes of Athenian society. His questions, which shook the existing order and awakened people's consciousness, would eventually bring him an inevitable trial. The greatest test and turning point of his life was drawing near. With his life's direction firmly established, Socrates showed no interest in material wealth or social status. He consistently wore shabby clothes and walked the streets of Athens barefoot. He avoided expensive foods and was content with simple meals. He despised the pursuit of a wealthy life or personal gain, and firmly upheld his philosophy even in poverty. His sole concern was the training of the soul and the pursuit of true knowledge. He emphasized that the health of the soul was far more important than the comfort of the body. He said, "A true life is one lived virtuously. Only when one escapes ignorance and pursues excellence of the soul, and reflects upon oneself, can one attain true freedom and happiness." Socrates proclaimed the revolutionary idea that virtue is knowledge. According to his philosophy, people do evil only because they do not know what virtue is. If they truly understood virtue, no one would deliberately commit evil. That is, human beings inherently seek the good, and evil results from errors born of ignorance. He emphasized that knowledge is not merely intellectual, but practical wisdom that leads to action. Right knowledge forms the essential foundation for right action. He continued to question young people, helping them realize virtue and strive for a good life. His teachings were not mere theories, but practical guidelines to be lived out. These teachings were passed down to great disciples like Plato and Aristotle, known as the twin pillars of Western philosophy, and continue to be the core principles of Western educational philosophy today. His name became a symbol of education. He said, rather than simply injecting knowledge, it is truly important to help others realize and practice the goodness of their soul. True education is the awakening of the soul. However, Socrates' radical philosophy and sharp questioning caused significant controversy and confusion among the established generations and elites of Athenian society. Especially his wife, Xanthippe, found it difficult to understand his way of life and frequently complained, worrying about the livelihood of their 3 children. There were constant conflicts and friction between the materially detached Socrates and his practical wife. Xanthippe's nagging became legendary, but Socrates is said to have endured it, even using it as an opportunity for self-discipline. In 399 BCE, Socrates was eventually put on trial by the citizens of Athens. He was absurdly charged with denying the gods recognized by the state, introducing new deities, and corrupting the youth. At the trial, Socrates did not compromise his philosophy in the slightest. Instead, he passionately argued the meaninglessness of an unexamined life and asserted his innocence. He firmly declared that his actions were carried out solely under divine command, and that caring for the souls of citizens was a sacred duty. His defense was not merely personal but a stern indictment of Athenian society. He said to his disciples, "There are moments when conversations with those closest to you are the hardest. But perhaps that is truly the process of understanding and loving each other more deeply. It is learning to accept each other's differences." Ultimately, Socrates was sentenced to death by a vote of the jurors. His disciples earnestly urged him to escape from prison, but he firmly refused. As his famous saying, "Even unjust laws are still laws," implies, he chose to respect and abide by the laws of the community he belonged to, even if they were unjust. By doing so, he upheld his beliefs and fulfilled his duties as an Athenian citizen. He faced death without a flicker of fear and preserved his philosophical principles to the very end. His death paradoxically made his philosophy live on forever. Life, perhaps, is not about perfect compromise, but about resolute choices and a solitary pursuit of unwavering convictions. In the spring of 399 BCE, at the age of 70, Socrates drank hemlock in an Athenian prison and faced the end of his life. Though his disciples were overwhelmed with grief, Socrates remained calm even in the face of death. Until the last moment, he continued deep conversations with his disciples about the immortality of the soul and the afterlife. He did not fear the death of the body but rather saw death as a process in which the soul is freed from bondage to encounter pure truth. For him, death was not an end, but a union with eternal truth, a belief he never wavered from. Before dying, he is said to have remarked, "Now I go either to sleep or to another place. Only the gods know which is the better path." And he left his disciples with a final request. "We owe a cock to Asclepius, please pay the debt." This was a customary gesture of gratitude to the god who heals disease and symbolically represented that his death had cured the illness of the soul. Socrates left behind no written works. All his teachings were passed down through the records of his disciples, especially Plato's dialogues. But what he left us is a philosophical legacy far deeper and more powerful than any number of books. He did not merely define concepts. He posed questions that changed the way people live. He said, "The ultimate purpose of life is not material wealth or social fame, but the excellence of the soul, arete. It is not about defeating others in competition, but about overcoming my own ignorance and foolishness to attain true wisdom." Socrates is not remembered merely as a great philosopher. He remains with us as a human being who explored the deepest essence of life and willingly gave his life for his beliefs. An eternal seeker and the conscience of Athens. His death, paradoxically, made his philosophy live on forever. As we walk the path of life, we come to realize that choosing a direction is more important than simply moving quickly. When we don't know where to go, Socrates' questions become a lighthouse, illuminating the way. Socrates cries out to us, "Know yourself." This is not a mere piece of advice. It is a courageous and reflective attitude toward life, one that continuously asks questions of oneself and seeks the true meaning of the soul. What am I living for right now? Does my life align with the true values I pursue? Such questions will guide us toward becoming better beings. Right now, how deeply are you conversing with your soul?